Here with the latest afternoon headlines, it's the ITV Lunchtime News.
What does England expect? Less than 4 hours till kick-off as England face Germany in the Euros at Wembley. Will Southgate, the manager, get the win he couldn't get as a player in the same place against the same team 25 years ago?
I've been nervous all morning. I didn't sleep much like it's like Christmas Eve.
I think we're the better team and I think we deserve to win.
2-0, say 2-0.
Also ahead, COVID school crisis. Absences hit a record high in England. Plus, the Prime Minister condemns the men who harassed Chris Whitty. And one royal owner, the car Prince Charles gave to a young Diana, sells for nearly £50,000.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. England v Germany at Wembley. Not long to wait now. It is the tie of the tournament so far for England fans. Many surely hoping to face England's old rivals a little later in the Euros than the first knockout stage. But here it is. The game begins at 5 tonight. The England manager Gareth Southgate says his young team has no baggage from previous England-Germany clashes. But he certainly does. So 25 years after he missed a penalty at the semi-final of Euro 96, this time can he avoid an England exit? Sangeeta Lal has the build-up.
In just a few hours, England fans will either see history repeat itself or history changed.
Hopefully we'll win it in normal time and it won't go to extra time or penalties.
A massive game, can't believe it.
I think we're the better team and I think we deserve to win. I think this will be the hardest game for us, so fingers crossed.
Come on, England!
As England prepare to play one of their biggest rivals, people across the country are getting ready too. As excitement builds in Oldham, though, it's hard to ignore the hurt of years of defeat.
Nervous. I hope we win. Really hope we win.
I'm getting the vibe tonight. I can't wait.
England haven't won against Germany in a knockout game since 1966. 25 years ago, it was this penalty kick from the then England defender Gareth Southgate that lost them a place in the finals in the Euros. Now, as England's manager, though, this game could once again be a defining moment in his career. Something he says he doesn't want to affect the performance of tonight.
I think you can make these things as big in your head as you want, really. It's a game of football. These boys have played hundreds of them. But we've got to trust in the way we prepare, transferring what we do in training into the game, and focus on the things we can control. Everything else outside it brings excitement, brings motivation.
Many of England's players this tournament weren't even born when they were last beaten in the Euros against Germany. But that's exactly the thing many German fans say is a reason to be confident as they head into tonight with a team experienced in major tournament games.
It's lovely to see Germany play against England. We've had before these sort of competitions in which you end up in penalty shootouts, and then the last one actually England lost. So hopefully Germany's going to win again today.
It is one of the most anticipated games, one that will no doubt make the nation stop as fans brace themselves to face Germany again. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
Well, since their famous win in 1966, England's men's team have played Germany 4 times in the knockout stages of major tournaments and lost every time. In the 1970 World Cup in Mexico, England were 2-0 up before eventually losing 3-2. In 1990, they met in the World Cup semi-finals with Germany winning on penalties. That, of course, happened again, didn't it, in the semi-finals of Euro 96 with Southgate's infamous miss. And then in the second round of the 2010 World Cup, England were well beaten, losing by 4-1. Our sports editor, Steve Scott, is at Wembley for us. History is not on England's side, is it, Steve?
Nina, you're right there, and it won't surprise you that the main topic of conversation of all those fixtures you've just read out was the one 25 years ago in 1996 when Gareth Southgate's missed penalty led to England crashing out of the tournament. Now, if Gareth Southgate needed any reminding of that game, which I'm sure he doesn't, he only has to glance to the opposition dugout tonight, because Andreas Kopka, the goalkeeper in '96, is actually now the German goalkeeping coach. So maybe a bit about redemption tonight for Gareth Southgate, but as you've already reflected, for the players the motivation is completely different. The oldest in the group, Kyle Walker, was 5 or 6 years old when that game was played. The youngest, Jude Bellingham, well, he wouldn't be born for another 6 years. I think Gareth Southgate tonight might tinker with his formation. Now, depending on how it goes, he'll either be seen as a tactical genius or a manager who tinkered when he shouldn't and should have just left well alone. Whatever happens tonight, the winners will be firm favourites with the bookies to go on to make the final, but then those very same bookies thought yesterday morning France were going to win this tournament.
Steve, thank you. Let's hope tactical genius it is. Thank you for that from Wembley. Well, one man who has happier memories of playing Germany than most modern-day England players is Emile Heskey, the former Leicester and Liverpool striker, scored the final goal in that 5-1 win over Germany in 2001 in a World Cup qualifying game in Munich. I'm delighted to say he joins me now. Look, many of us will never forget watching that match. What was it like to score in it and the final goal at that?
Yeah, phenomenal day. Again, it's a game that wherever I go, I get stopped for. All over the world, we've got England fans stopping me for that and just thanking me for that game and the memories. Everyone knows exactly where they were when that game was being played. So, phenomenal game to be playing in. Yeah, wasn't it? Wasn't it just? Look, we also can't forget Euro 96, fresh in all of our minds anyway, but especially tonight. What pressure must Gareth Southgate be under? Look, he was playing it cool yesterday, but he can't not think about that pretty recent history for him. Well, that's for him. That's his personal history, isn't it? Yes, it's to England as well. But again, I think he puts that aside because again, he's a manager now, so he can actually put something else out for the players. Like you said in the previous, that some of these players weren't even born when this game was being played, so they really don't have any memory of that until we actually bring that up. They want to be building their own memories on going forward of how England knocked out Germany, not the other way around. What if, though, the question nobody really wants to talk about, but what if it did end up going to penalties? That's going to be even harder for Southgate, isn't it, to put his players through those experiences, that experience he endured that night. Again, they would have practiced everything about the penalties. That they would be looking at the goalkeepers, analysing where they saved, which way they dived better, where they make most of their saves, and they'll be analysing all that. They'll be going through that rigorously. And again, I don't think you can put your own pressure on the players. I think this is where you become a really good manager, where you take away all of that pressure and allow them to go and express themselves. What about the England captain? Look, he really hasn't had a good Euros so far, has he? Will Harry Kane shine tonight when he gets on the pitch with the old rivals again at Wembley? These are the occasions that you as a player look up to and look forward to. These are the occasions that you want to be shining, you want to be playing good football. When you're looking at Harry Kane in the previous 3 games, I think he's only had 5 shots. And when you're looking at Harry Kane, he's usually having probably 8 to 10 shots a game. He's had 5 in the last 3. This is something that he's got to step up on and take his opportunity to have the shots, because if you don't take the shot, you're never going to score a goal. Go on then, just before we let you go, quick prediction. What's the scoreline going to be this evening? I'm going England all the way. I think defensively we've been very, very solid. So I don't think we're going to concede a goal, but I think we're going to score. I think we're going to go with a 1-0. 1-0. Let's go for that. That'll do us. Thank you very much, Emile Heskey. Thank you. OK, to the other big story of the day, and the number of pupils not at school because of COVID has hit a record high in England. New government figures show 1 in 20 state school pupils were off school last week because they've tested positive for COVID
or have come into contact with someone who has. It's the highest number since March of this year. Earlier, the government said school isolation could be scrapped in time for September, but that will be too late for the rest of this academic year. Here's our political reporter, Shihab Khan.
For more than a year, education has been very different to what we're used to. At the start of the pandemic, it was homeschooling for most. Now, the challenge is dealing with outbreaks of the virus. Joy Prasad's 11-year-old daughter Lily has had her education disrupted a lot this year. This morning, someone in her class tested positive for the virus, which means she will be asked to self-isolate for the 4th time.
I think they need to end isolation of school pupils now. You cannot have a world where you've got thousands of people packing into a football stadium and children being treated like this. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense, and it's really horribly unfair on children.
According to the latest figures, on the 24th of June, approximately 279,000 state school pupils in England were self-isolating due to possible contact with a COVID case. 24,000 were off with a suspected case of the virus, and 15,000 more had a confirmed case of it. In total, around 5% of pupils, that's 1 in 20, were absent for COVID-related reasons. The government is now looking into alternatives to stop large numbers of children having to self-isolate, and mass testing might be the solution.
We are trialling a daily testing trial in some secondary schools as an alternative to self-isolation for those in contact with somebody with COVID. And that trial ends tomorrow, and the scientists will be looking at the data.
Any change to the isolation system will need to get the right balance because, as this doctor says, although it's less likely, children can suffer from long COVID.
Probably about 1 in 13 children under 11 and 1 in 12 children between 12 and 16 has symptoms for at least 4 weeks. But for most of those, the symptoms don't seem to be as severe as they are for instance, some adults. And we have to weigh that up against the fact that for every child who's got COVID and is home because they're positive, there are more than 20 children who are off self-isolating.
As the government moves towards getting life back to some sort of normality, ensuring students catch up and minimising disruption will be high on their list of priorities. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
Glenn Potts is a head teacher in Oldham who last week had 400 children and 20 staff isolating. He says the situation is like the war. He says people at the top have no idea how bad things are on the ground. Well, let's speak to him now. Glenn, you seem exasperated.
I think I am. I think, like most parents and most leaders in education, we're sort of asking for a plan and we've not yet seen it. We're doing our very, very best to safeguard and protect our young people, but also we are responsible for their development, and not just their GCSE grades, their health, their happiness, and how well they feel supported in school and beyond. And the current system isn't working.
OK, you've got talk of a plan from the government today. They are talking about from next term, from September, getting rid of pupils having to isolate. Is this the right way forward? Of course, it will be too late for the weeks that you've still got of the summer term.
So I've got just under 300 children isolating today. I've got 22 staff absent. I've got 18 positive cases across the community. The talk of having a solution for September is a bit like debating putting sprinklers into a building that's already on fire. This issue is present and real in my school now. Every day lost is a day that young person misses out on the best quality education I can provide. We need some response now so that parents, carers, schools and our teachers are all aligned in one goal, the service of our young people.
What's the best way to cope with the next few weeks then? Should it be bringing back the lateral flow tests within the school building as opposed to relying on parents doing it at home? Some are doing it, some aren't.
Well, I think testing is a logistical demand, but it's a demand that we would accept if it meant that more children could stay in school. The irony is that a young person can do their test at home in their bedroom, but if they're to do it at school, it has to be in a quasi-medical setting with the correct flooring and staff monitoring it. But if we have to do testing to enable children to attend school, that is the lesser of the evils, because, of course, they're missing out on so much. The goal here should surely be about stability and taking up every opportunity for learning. And therefore, if we have to bring in testing every day for children to attend school, I think parents would understand the disruption that causes, because it's less than having to send home countless numbers of children, sometimes after having had a period off already.
It's been announced today by the government that some senior executives coming into the UK, if they provide jobs within the UK, they won't have to isolate. How do you react to that?
I think that is wholly wrong. We are talking about the next generation of young people who've got to make a massive difference in this world. They are going to be paying the bill of this pandemic far longer than any of us are. I think it's about time we stop talking about the COVID situation being over and about holidays and Freedom Day and start to talk about the lives and the impact of these young people. They have a right to be heard in this as much as anyone. Executives being given free rein to attend football matches or concerts is not top of the priority list.
Glenn Potts, thank you very much for your thoughts today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come this lunchtime, the Queen meets Nicola Sturgeon as her tour of Scotland continues, and
sold for £47,000.
Princess Diana's old Ford Escort is heading to South America. But first, the Prime Minister has condemned the men who accosted England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty as thugs. Boris Johnson said he was shocked at the footage, which appears to show Professor Whitty being harassed in St James's Park in London. Our correspondent Neil Connery has the latest. It's not the first time Chris Whitty has faced this type of confrontation from the public. What happened on this occasion?
No, it's not. As you say, this video appears to show England's Chief Medical Officer, Professor Chris Whitty, being accosted by two men in a park. It shows these two men laughing and jeering as they grab hold of Professor Whitty, who struggles to get free. Now, the Metropolitan Police say that it happened in St James's Park in London on Sunday and that everyone involved has been spoken to. The Prime Minister has said that he was shocked at seeing the despicable harassment of Professor Whitty. The new Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, said it was appalling and totally unacceptable. Now, Professor Whitty, as we all know, has played a key role in the UK's response to COVID. We've seen him over the last 16 months at a number of TV briefings that have taken place. Now, in the last few minutes, we've had a statement from the Metropolitan Police. They say that two men were robustly warned about their behaviour and ordered to leave the area. The incident has been recorded as a common assault and continues to be investigated by the Met's Public Order Crime Team.
Neil Connery, thank you very much. Wales has recorded 0 COVID deaths in a week for the first time since the start of the pandemic. For the week ending the 18th of June, no deaths recorded COVID-19 on the death certificate. In England, there was a slight increase that week from 83 to 102 COVID-related deaths. The Queen has met the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, on the second day of her 4-day trip to Scotland. It took place at the Palace of Holyrood House. Our royal editor, Chris Shipp, is in Stirling, where the Queen plans to visit during her tour. Chris, meeting the First Minister is not that unusual for the Queen, but it does potentially have some extra significance, shall we say, this year.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nina. Look, Scotland Week is back on this year after having to be postponed last year because of COVID, and the Queen will be in Stirling as part of that visit. And meeting the First Minister during Scotland Week, there's nothing unusual about that at all. But given this year that independence was front and centre during the election campaign for the Scottish Parliament, given that people in Scotland voted for a majority of MSPs who support independence, I think the meeting today with Nicola Sturgeon does take on that added bit of significance. Now, look, SNP policy is to keep the Queen as head of state should Scotland become independent. But I think there is probably a sizable chunk of the independent supporters who would actually like Scotland to become a republic. And if you add into that, Prince William today was at a shipbuilding site on the River Clyde in Govan near Glasgow. And remember that defence is a reserve matter. It's paid for by the UK government. I mean, he won't say this, of course, but there are jobs, Scottish jobs, being paid for by the UK government. So if you look at all those things, it does show you that actually Scotland Week this year for the royal family is much more significant than perhaps in other years.
Chris Ship, thank you very much. To Wimbledon now, and after Andy Murray's dramatic win last night, there was another British success today. British number one Dan Evans has also reached the second round after beating Spaniard Feliciano Lopez in straight sets. There he goes. Finally, the car that's sold for nearly £50,000 that's not had one careful owner, but one very famous one instead. The Ford Escort that Charles gave to Diana as an engagement present was auctioned this morning. Sally Biddulph has the details.
Watch Lot 1, and here we are, formerly the property of Her Royal Highness Diana, Princess of Wales. A rare discovery indeed.
A car fit for a princess, a 1981 top-of-the-range built-to-order Ford Escort gear. Quite an engagement gift from Prince Charles to Lady Diana, with one very telling customisation.
Our little amphibian friend here was actually a present from Lady Diana Spencer's sister, Lady Sarah Spencer, and it was meant to represent the fairy tale romance, the kissing a frog, finding a prince kind of illusion of a story here.
And ready to write the next chapter, bidders in the auction room today.
£21,000, £22,000, at £22,000, £23,000.
The price kept rising for a car with real history. As well as one very famous owner, it was also the prize in a newspaper competition before passing through two more female owners and then 20 years in storage.
Going once at £47,000, twice at £47,000, the third and final time, sold for £47,000.
There'd been a lot of interest before the sale, obviously from around the world, and obviously bore out by the fact it ended up eventually selling after a little phone battle to somebody in South America.
A car museum in Chile is now the proud owner of Diana's little runaround. With 83,000 miles on the clock, it's now a giant leap of 7,000 more to reach its final destination. Sally Biddulph, ITV News.
That's it for now. Join Mary for the ITV Evening News at 6:30. From everyone on today's Lunchtime News team, bye-bye.